Welcome back to our second big topic in our Frida journey. This one over here is working with existing objects and instances. Within the last few sections we have seen how we can manipulate class methods. And we have also seen how we can create a new instance. But what we haven't seen right now is how we can work with existing objects and instances. Therefore, let's have a look into the following slide. So here we're having our SpacePing application in, let's say, low quality. So this one over here, this is now our SpacePing application and we've got a lot of objects in there. For example, we've got this world object, this one over here. This is now the object where all the graphic views are being placed on. These alien shots, this player shot and more. Okay? If you're talking about a special object, for example this one over here, this world, then we are talking about an instance. So this is the world instance. There's only one world object available, which is this instance right now. And this one has, for example, a world, a player, coins, and more. Over here, we've got some player instance, and this one has some lives, score, and more. And we also got this one over here, an alien instance. Within the last couple of sections, we have seen how we can create new objects over here on this application. But we cannot modify existing ones. And this is something we will learn right now. Because if you want to manipulate or play around with games, just if you have the permission to do so, then you need to work on existing objects because it makes no sense or it's way harder to create a whole new player object rather than just simply increasing the values of the existing ones. Alright, now let's switch to the Ubuntu VM and have a look how we can do this. The pattern for this is a little bit different, but we will learn this in just a few moments. Therefore, let's go, let's switch back to the Ubuntu VM. Okay, so here we are back at the Ubuntu VM and now let's have a look into our application code. So within apps, we've got this application Frida Funk and this one over here. And we are opening this application with JDX GUI. By the way, you can also find this application as an attachment of this section over here in case if you haven't watched the last videos. If you haven't, it's absolutely no problem because we are starting here a new chapter, but still I highly recommend doing this because otherwise, you only learn a single part of Frida, and yeah, to work with Frida or to get the most ability out of Frida, we need to know all three parts. Alrighty? Okay. So here we are back at this application, and within COM, app hacking Frida Funk, we've got now this player object. This player class. This one over here. Alright, this is the player class. Now let's get back to the smartphone. Here we have it, and let's open this app. So this is this amazing icon over here. Okay, so here we have it right now. To get a better view on this one, let's copy this and we create a new file over here. A new Visual Studio Code file. We paste it in here and we select the Java syntax. Alright, let's put the smartphone on the right and now pull out the graphic tablet and have a look into this one. Okay, so on the top left, we've got our player class. And this one over here. And this is our class player. This is our blueprint of a player. And this one has lives, power, and some methods. If you're now talking about an object, we are talking about creating a new player object over here. So this would look like the following. New player. So here we are now creating a new player object. And if we're talking about an instance, we are talking about a concrete player object. For example, this one over here. Player PL1. So PL1 is now our player object 1. And this one over here. This is our instance. And this is the PL1 instance. If you would have created a new one, for example, let's do it in green, then we are having now two instances. And this one is instance 1 and this one is instance 2. This one over here. So PL2 wouldn't be connected to this game over here. This player object would be there, but it would be only in memory. This is not being available in this whole application over here. So for example, it would look like this. So here we are having PL2 but this one is not being connected to the game. So therefore, this player object is absolutely useless for us right now. Alright, these are the things we already know. Now let's have a look how we can work with an existing object. So we are not creating a new one like this one over here. We are now working with this existing instance over here. We want to increase the lives of this instance, which has been set to 5, to, for example, 100. So now let's figure out how we can do this in Frida. Okay, the things we need to do in Frida are the following. We need to scan the application memory to identify this instance in there. So if we are having this application memory, for example, this one over here, memory, this is now the memory of this whole application. Then within this memory, we would have this player instance. Therefore, we need to scan this memory over here until we find this instance, and then we need to access it. So by accessing it, we can now choose, for example, to have a new lives value. And this one over here. The lives of this object or this instance has been set to 5. And now we can simply rewrite it in the following way. We could say from this instance, we want to change the lives, the value to be 100. And by doing this, the lives of this object over here, of this player object, will be updated to 100. This sounds now absolutely complex. Scanning in memory to identify an existing instance and then accessing it? Absolutely crazy, but not in Frida. Frida is absolutely amazing in doing this task. And all we need to do is we need to get into a new pattern. But this one is also not that complicated. Therefore, let's directly start with this one over here. Okay, so let's close this one, this Java code, and now let's open a new file. And we save this now as existing instance.js. Alright, once again, we are still working with Java code. If you take a look into JDX GUI, this one over here is Java code. Therefore, we need to tell Frida to attach to the JVM. This hasn't been changed right now. So java.perform. Alright, here we're now providing our anonymous function. And this is our function body or our code. Now is the question, how can we scan an application memory regarding to an existing instance? So how is this being done? And if you do not have an answer for this one, then a good starting point is the Frida documentation. So if you take a look into this one, here we have it within docs. We've got now this JavaScript RP, this one over here. If we click on this one, then we can scroll down a little bit, and here we find now all the stuff. What's interesting for us is within, let's see, instrumentation. Here we are talking about the instrumentation with Java. So this is all the Frida code regarding to working with Java code. If we click on this one, here we have now all the stuff. There's a bunch of other stuff. For example, we can check if the Java virtual machine is available, if we've got an Android version, or what's the Android version. Sorry, this way. Of course, we've got an Android version, and enumerated loaded classes and things like this. But now we are only interested in the following. And let's see. This one over here, java.choose. And the explanation is exactly what we want to do. This one is enumerating live instance of the class name. So this is our first parameter. Class by scanning the Java heap, where callbacks is an instance specifying. We've got now two callbacks, on match and on complete. These are our two callbacks we need to apply over here. Don't worry, we will do this together. It's not that complicated, even if it sounds like. But Frida is doing all of this job. Frida is scanning the Java heap, looking for this class reference or existing instances of this class reference. And then we get back to callbacks on match, which has the instance which is being found by Frida or not. It depends if there's an instance available. And we've got this on complete, which simply tells us called when all instances have been enumerated. So this is just, okay, I'm done right now. And this one over here, this callback, and this one is where the magic happens. This will find our existing instance, our player object, and this one over here, and then we can work with this one. Absolutely amazing, right? Let's see how we can apply this to real code. So let's copy paste this out. We are copying this and then we paste it in here. All right. The first thing we need to do is we need to apply a class name. And this one right now, it's not a class reference. This is simply just a name in form of a string. So if we go back into our JDX code, maybe let's put this on the right. So here we have it. All we need to do is simply just getting the class name in form of a string. And we can get the class name by using this package name over here. So here we have to provide this class name dot and then the player class. This is the object we want to identify, or the instance we want to identify. All right, the first part has been done. Amazing. Now let's see the callbacks. This is a little bit more complicated, but not as much. If you get a little bit of practice, this will become easier and easier. All right? Okay, so to apply the callbacks, we first have to wrap them in brackets, in curly brackets. Then I'm hitting enter right now. Okay, and now we have to define these two callbacks. The first one is on match. Let's have a look. Was it on match? Yes, on match. And we are providing, or we are obtaining, an instance out of this. Okay, so we've got on match. And now we need to define a new anonymous function. So this is the function that gets called if we found this instance over here. So this is now our function, and this one has an instance as parameter. This is the instance that has been found. Okay, and this is our onMatch function. Afterwards, we have to apply the second callback, which is, so here we have it, onComplete. This one is being called when all instances have been enumerated. All right, so we use this one over here. And we are separating both callbacks with this comma over here. So after providing the first callback, we are now having our second one, onMatch. And this one, once again, it's an anonymous function. And here we have it. This is now our new structure if we want to identify an instance in memory. So Frida is doing the hard work for us. All we need to tell Frida is, if you find an instance over here, we are now applying a callback. So this is the code. If an instance has been found. And here we're having the code to know when Frida has been finished scanning. This is the part that is being done by us right now. All right? Okay, so let's get back the code out here and let's see. Okay, so within the onMatch callback, we are getting this instance. Now let's print this simply out. So let's print it out that an instance has been found. Send an instance of the player class has been found. And then we are providing, for example, this instance. Let me make this a little bit wider. There we have it. Okay. So now every time an instance has been found, we are printing this one out. In our game over here, this one, we should have only one instance, this one. We are just creating one player object, and therefore we are having one player instance. If we click on this one is losing some lives. There we have it. I've got a little bit of a lag, but nevertheless, we are still alive. We are having one life. This was pretty close right now. So here we are done finishing with the scanning task. And this is just some, okay, I'm done. And therefore we just print out some debug statement. Now Frida has finished scanning the application memory for player instances. This is now our code. So let's recap this real quick. First, we have to use Java choose this time. This is different regarding to our java.use. We are now scanning the application memory, this one over here, for a certain class. So we are scanning for com app hacking fridafunc.player to identify all these instances in the memory. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that Frida can do this with just these lines, right? Absolutely. Then we have to define two callbacks, onMatch if an instance has been found, then we are applying our code to this instance, and the onComplete if this task has been finished. And this is all. This is how we can scan the application memory for an existing instance and work with this one. Therefore, let's start the Frida server and see if this one really works. So we are connecting into the smartphone over here. We are gaining root privileges, and then we go into data local temp and we start the Frida server. All right. This is now running in the background. Now let's open our new terminal and connect to this process. Frida-u com app hacking Frida func. Now we have attached to this process, and let's pull also out a new terminal for the ADB logcat. All right, now let's take this code and let's put it inside here. We are executing it, and then the magic happens in the background. There we have it. Absolutely amazing. Let's see. Let's open this one. An instance of the player class has been found. And here we are having now the reference to this object. Amazing. And then Frida has finished scanning this application memory for player instances. Okay, so this is fantastic. Now let's see how we can change the values of this instance over here. If we close this one and if we go back, so here we can see this player has now on field lives. So this is our instance we have found. We've only got one player with life set to 5. Now we are only having one life. This is one over here. All right, to access this field right now, all we need to do is the following. We are having here now our player instance, and we can simply access and modify and override this field in the following way. Instance dot, and then let's see. This one over here is lives. Instance dot lives, and then dot value equals, and now we can apply a new value. And for example, 9004. We are now scanning the application memory, identifying our instance, accessing the instance field lives, which is now set to 1, this one over here, and we are changing this field to 9004. Amazing, right? Let's see if this one works. So we copy this code and we insert it over here. All right, the output looks amazing. I mean, we can see over here, and let's open this one, an instance of the player class has been found, and so on. So this should have worked, right? The question is now, why do we have still one live? The reason for this is the UI hasn't been updated yet. So if we are printing out this value over here, we can also do this and send the player lives are now, and then let's also print this out. So here we are printing out the lives of this player instance, and let's copy this code. We are inserting it over here. And now let's see, the player lives are now 9004. So these lives should have been changed to 9004. And they have been changed. And just the UI has not been updated. We can simply figure this out by clicking on the player icon. Let's see, 3, 2, 1, there we have it, 9003, 9002, and so on. Amazing, we have now changed the lives of this player instance over here. Freaking awesome, right? Absolutely. So this is how we can work with existing instances. Absolutely fantastic. Let's do a quick recap on the slides to get even more familiar with the whole process. Alright, so here we are back on the slides, and we can see we've got a player instance over here. And this player instance has some lives and also some methods. The thing we need to do is we need to scan the memory for all occurrence of this instance over here. And we can do this with java.choose. The first parameter is simply just a string of the class name we want to have those instances. So this is our class where we want to find all existing instances. And then we have to apply 2 callbacks within the second parameter. onMatch if this instance has been found, and onComplete if we are done finishing our scanning job. Within the onMatch, we are having this instance as a parameter, and we need to define a new anonymous function and apply our code in there. This is all we need to do to work with existing objects. and this will help you a lot if you want to play around with games, also within the SpaceBank application. Alrighty? Okay, one last thing. Let's figure out how we can call a method. I mean, this should be clear right now, but nevertheless, let's do this. And then we are using our old script to create new instances. And then we scan the memory once again to see if they are really there. Alright? Let's have a look into this one. Okay, so here we are back at our Ubuntu VM, and now let's have a look how we can actively trigger a method on an existing instance. For example, on this one over here. To do this, everything has been already set up. So within our onMatch function, we get this instance reference. And to call a method on this one, we can simply use instance dot the method name. So exactly the same like we would have called this in Java. For example, if you write it in the following way, here we are having this instance. And then if you're calling a method in Java on this instance, we would write it in the following way. Player dot and then the method name. And over here, it's exactly the same. So here we're having our instance, and then we can now use this to call the method name. In this case, let's see, JDX GUI. For example, let's call this method increase live. Let's copy this. And now we're calling this method on this instance over here. So dot increase live, and that's all. So this is how we can play around with instances. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated regarding to the approach, but at the end, if you're familiar with this one, it's not that hard anymore. Okay, before we execute this one over here, maybe let's remove this one, and then let's comment this code a little bit. So here we are scanning, put the mouse on the right, we are scanning the application memory for existing instances of the player class. Alright, this is what this java.choose is doing. Here we are having now an onMatch callback. This one is being called if an instance has been found. Otherwise, this one here would not be called. Therefore, we have this onComplete, because here we know that's the onComplete callback. Here we know when the application memory has been finished scanning. Finished scanning the app memory. Yes. And then we can get this one out, and yeah. Okay, and now let's use this one over here. Maybe, okay, now we use it over here. So we take this one and we put this into our Frida terminal. We also observe the ADB logcat output because if you take a look into JDX GUI once again, this one is printing out some statements. This is impossible, player lives increasing. And this one also increases our player lives, and therefore we should have, yeah, an increased player life afterwards. So therefore let's set the player lives just before to a certain value. So I guess I have deleted this line, but it's absolutely no problem. Then we have a little bit more practice. So instance.lives.value is now 9005. Then we're calling this method, and this one is increasing these lives to 9006. Okay, let's copy this code and let's paste it in here. There we have it. All right. 3, 2, 1. There we have it. Player lives increasing. Lives has been now set to 9006. This means we have increased it over here. Let me get this back. And the arrow is also pointing directly to this. So this is impossible. This method does not get called anywhere. We have increased the lives of this object, of this one, to 9006. Fancy animation, I know. And then we have increased it over here by 1. And this is the debug output over here. So we have actively called this method on this instance. Nice. Let's verify this. If we click on this one, we should have 9005 because we are losing 1. Let's see. There we have it, 9005. Whew. I'm glad that this one over here did work out. Okay, amazing. So this is how we can play around with existing objects. Now let's create our fake objects in this application. So now let's take our script from the last example. I will show you what I mean. Open file, instance method was it? Yes. So now let's take this one over here and let's remove this function, otherwise we have to call it. There we go. Okay, so now let's execute this one over here, and then we should have some fake player objects in there. For example, if we are executing it once, this one should appear. So this is our fake player object. I mean, this is a real player object, but it's not attached to this application over here, but it exists in memory. And here, for example, we are having another one. Okay, let's do this. So I copy this and I insert it right now. So now we're having our fake object over here. I call it once again. We have another fake object over here, and we call it a bunch of times. Now this application is full of player objects, even if we cannot see them. So, I mean, they can also not be used, so they are completely useless, but they exist in memory. We can find this out with this script over here. So, here we cannot see them anymore, but here we can. So, let's use the script, make this a little bit larger. Okay, I'm now pasting in the script regarding to the output of these instances, and let's see. There we have it. Our player objects really exist. We've got a bunch of ghost objects. Let's see. So we've got a lot of player objects and the addresses, and we can see, there's no output regarding to the lives. Did I miss this one? Oh yes. Maybe let's add this one over here. Send the instance lives is equal plus, instance.lives.value. Alright, I must have accidentally deleted it before, so sorry for this one, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay, and let's also remove or comment out these two, because otherwise we would have overwritten, or we are overwriting all instances with with this value and calling this method on all instances that has been found. And we want to figure out if there's a little bit of a difference. So regarding to our existing ones, which has these amount of lives, this one, and regarding to all our ghost objects, which should have the default life set to 5. All right? Okay, so now we can copy paste this one in our Frida command line. Okay, so I copy this, then let's open the smartphone and also the Frida terminal over here. All right, now I insert it over here, and let's see. Yes, we are now not overwriting any value, we are just printing them out. This is exactly what we want to have. And 3, 2, 1, go. All right, nice. Now we can see, yes, exactly. We can see we've got a bunch of objects. These are our ghost objects, all having 6 lives. So I guess we have used some increased level method in there. Never mind. These are now being set to 6 lives, and we've got our instance over here. This is now our real player object. Alright, so this is all for this video right now. In the next one we will have some fun regarding to our SpaceBing application. We will use our newly gained knowledge over here to play around with this one. For example, we are increasing the player lives, the high score, and things like this. Alrighty, so I'm looking forward to see you there.